Hi, I'm Mike Colwell. I'm the Director of the Business Innovation Zone. The Business Innovation Zone, or the BIZ, was created to help high-growth potential entrepreneurs and businesses in central Iowa. We provide a variety of services, including mentoring, consulting, counseling, validating business models, and help with access to funding for high-growth companies. We offer also a number of networking opportunities, including luncheons once a month and all-day seminars on subjects such as marketing and finance. You can find out more about the BIZ at www.bizci.org. Before we get to introductions, a couple things I wanted to do. I wrote a blog post recently about this book, and I want to pass it around today. If you haven't seen this, down at South by Southwest, a bunch of the presenters were showing their 5 best business books, and this was like number 1 or 2 on everybody's list. It's $20. It's the best $20 you'll ever spend. It's called Business Model Generation. It's about building business models, not business plans, but models. And I've been doing this an awfully long time, and it's the best piece of work I've ever seen. I'm going to pass it around today. Take your time sending it. Just make sure it gets around the room by the end of the day. But a wonderful, wonderful resource for those of you trying to put something together. I'm also going to pass this around. We did this a couple of years ago. About 40 people in the Des Moines metro area put together some of their thoughts on starting and growing businesses. That's available on the web as well. So I'll pass both those around. We do have a camera in the back of the room. We have started last year. We started taping all the things we do here at the BIZ, and we put them out on the website. So if by next week, a lot of these videos will be up. So if you know somebody, you feel like, wow, it would be really nice if a friend of mine could have seen this video, we leave them up permanently. There is content going back to last August covering everything from marketing to finance to a couple of entrepreneurs, Ben Milne and Don Shane, to SEO, how to do SEO on websites. So it's a variety of things, but it's just another resource out there for all of you to take advantage of. Agenda today, fairly tight agenda. This tends to be a pretty busy day, but at the same time we don't want to rush anything, so just keep asking questions. We are going to go through the types of capital available, business formation, compliance, partnering, which is near and dear to many of our hearts who've been through partnering deals that didn't work out so well. Due diligence, what does that mean? Governance, what does that mean if you haven't been through this in the past? Valuation, which is a very interesting discussion as well. And the last thing we'll do today is the pitch. And the pitch is something that a lot of people will talk about. When you're out raising capital, you've got to pitch your idea. And it's really, really important to understand how to do that. And the best thing you can do is watch a lot of other people pitch. So we'll have Christian Renaud come in, who has been on both sides of the pitch. Christian was with Cisco for many years, where he basically acquired companies in new market spaces, so he listened to a lot of people pitch, and then he's pitched a few startups of his own. I would also encourage you, if you're not familiar with it, Technology Association of Iowa has a session they do called Pitch and Grow. And Pitch and Grow, there's 4 times a year it's done. And the idea is you go into a very friendly environment and you pitch your company. You pitch your concept, you do a sales pitch, you do a pitch for equity, whatever you want to pitch. And there are people in the room, as many as 4 to 8 people will watch you pitch and give you feedback right there, and also there'll be an audience in the room. So it's a great chance to just throw your idea out there and get some good solid feedback without being in that situation that if you mess it up, you lose the funding or whatever. I can tell you that the more you practice this, the better you're going to get. It's definitely worth doing. So this last session today will really be about giving you an outline for a pitch, a format for a pitch, but also actually giving you the pitch so you can see how it's done. We talked a little bit about this already. A couple resources. There's a million resources out there, but I want to point out a couple things that are out there right now. Silicon Prairie News, for those of you who haven't seen it, has really taken off in this area. Where I get hits from my website went from Silicon Prairie News a year ago didn't show up to being the #1 place people find the BIZ now. It is a huge resource all through the Midwest. They're in Omaha, they're in Des Moines, they're in Kansas City, and they have plans to grow further. They have an event coming up, an entrepreneurial event in Omaha called Big Omaha that I don't believe they've actually announced the exact information yet, but it's been announced, I think, as far as the dates. And I believe the rumor is they're doing one in Des Moines later this year as well, this fall. So pay attention to that. The website for the BIZ is up here. Startup City Des Moines, you'll have several of the members of that here. This is a startup incubator being started here in Des Moines yet this year. Christian Renaud and Tej Dawan will be here. Both of them, and Tej is upstairs right now on a conference call, but they're actually doing an in-place incubator with coaching. for-profit model, very interesting situation. And then Startup Weekend is an interesting thing. A couple of people in here come out of the Startup Weekend, which is a 54-hour work your rear end off, start with a concept, build as much of the company as you possibly can, and pitch it at the end. So all good resources to look at. A couple other books. I gave you the one on business model generation. Two others that if you haven't read them are definitely worth the read. A lot of what we use here at the Biz comes out of Guy Kawasaki's book, Art of the Start. And Rework, if you're not familiar with 37 Signals, is this phenomenally successful company that bootstrapped themselves, that is doing an amazing amount of revenue and profit, and really breaking just about every business rule in software. I've been in the software business-to-business space for about 25 years before I came to this. And when you hear things or read things like never write an idea down, because if it's not good enough for you to remember it, it's not good enough to put in your product, or make sure your customers outgrow you. In other words, focus on what you do really well and don't try to cover everybody. It's just some of those things you go, hold it, that's not the rules. That's the anti-rules, but it's a very, very good read. Real quickly, we're going to talk about you're going to see these slides later, so I'm not going to focus on the slide, but we're going to talk about 3 kinds of capital today, just as an introduction before JD comes up to talk about in general. I just want to give you an overview of, because I think last year we didn't really set this up well enough. There are really 3 levels of capital out there, and there are gradients in between. But first of all is friends and family. This is the money from friends, people you know. It's the easiest money to get in some ways and the hardest money to take in some ways. So we'll talk more about the Thanksgiving test later. The second level is really the angel investor. This is the single person or angel group that is a very high risk, many times the very first real money in a deal, or large scale money into a deal. So you'll hear the word angel investor a lot, and angel is a relative term there. And then finally, the true venture capital private equity world, and there are many layers of this, and we will not try to get into the complexity of that. But those are really the 3 things we're going to be talking about today. So the hope is by the end of the day, you won't be an expert on it, I guarantee you, because I know people have been in it their whole life that don't think they're an expert on it, but you'll have at least an idea of what's involved, who the people are you'll need, what are the pieces you'll need, the kinds of money it could take, etc.